good morning, evening, middle of the night. I know this. You guys have already been blowing up my comment section. There's people tuning in from the UK. Bev from the UK is up at nearly 1 a.m., which is awesome to see. Uh, I I know someone named Craig Wagner. Is this the Craig Wagner I know from Louisville? Perhaps? Surely not. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If you don't know who I am, I'm Luke from Become a Bassist. Uh, talk about all things bass. And thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is the Christmas in Julyvestream, which I thought was very hilarious. I had to make a title for this thing yesterday, and I just like as a placeholder like a Become a Bassist live stream, like oh July live stream, like Christmas in Julyvestream. It's got to be that one. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Hi to all the regular viewers. Oh, we've got more people from Queensland. If you don't, I'm from Queensland. I grew up here. I live here now. It's like it's the best place in the world. It's really good. But we got people from all over the place. Niagara Falls, New Orleans, more Canadas up here, Montreal. Yeah, awesome. And this is my mum. She's streamed into my live stream. She's on the email newsletter. Hi, mum. I did not expect this, but yeah, good to see you. I'm sure I'll get a lot out of this bass lesson. She doesn't play bass, by the way, but this is great. This is yeah, awesome. And okay, some familiar faces as well. Joshua Cunningham is here. I think Alex was from. Ruth, who's a long-time listener. Hey Ruth, how's it going? Also from Australia, not quite my state, but a little bit further south. But I would love to get started with some of the questions that you guys have sent in because there was some really good ones. I've got like, hold on, where's my document? I've got like 11 pages worth of questions. I can't get to all of them, but I will get to the ones that I think can be really helpful for everyone. Before we get to the first question though, I just need to tell you something. I went to get my ears tested the other day, like at the audiologist, and they told me that I was going deaf. And I tell you what, that news was super hard to hear. The first dad joke. My ears are fine, by the way. That's just for the purpose of the joke. But anyway, I did say I was going to drop some top quality dad jokes. That's number one. I've got some in the pipeline that are rippers. But let's actually get into some bass stuff because I did have some really cool questions. Now, before we actually, I should do a quick sound check just to make sure you guys can hear me. Obviously, you can hear my voice. Otherwise, I have comments saying, "Oh, I can't hear." But can you hear the bass? Do I need a little bit more of that? A little bit less? Now there is a couple of, there's like a 10-second delay between when I say something and when I get the responses back. So, I'm seeing some people saying no. Okay, interesting. More? Okay, we just need a bit more of that. Okay, how about this? Is that any better? Hold on. Very faint bass. What if I do this? Is that any different? Interesting. What could possibly be going on? Still got no bass. That is annoying. Okay, hold on. Still very faint. Interesting. What about this? Sounds like a toy piano, Dave says. That is not what you want a bass to sound like. Craig says plug it in. Oh, if only that were the issue, because I'm hearing it great, but okay. What could be? This is the same setup I always use. What could be going on? Let me see. Hold on. Rookie error. I betcha. Yeah. Wow. I made the errors right now. I had it set to my computer speakers. Computer. How is that? All right, that should fix the issue. Do you have a bass? Yes, I definitely do have a bass. It's in my hand. Oh, I've got my Arnie's here. He's hanging out. Okay, yeah, Frank's saying there it is. Perfect. Oh, by the way, everyone, this is Pup. Arnie, can you sit for us? Oh, good boy. High five. Oh, good boy. He's a very good boy. Yeah, awesome. Okay, now that we've looked at how much of a fool I can make of myself on the live stream, excellent. Perfect. Let's jump into the first question. Okay, cool. So I have 3 I really want to get through today. The first is about making transitions between chords. The second is about creating fills. And the third is about eliminating buzz on using technique and all that stuff. So what do you want to look at first? We're going to look at transitions, fills, or the buzzing. First one into the live chat gets a gold star, and we'll do that one. So whoever's in there first, we're going to do that one first. Or there's that 10-second delay. I bet you I'm going to be like bombarded in a second. Buzzing. Okay, the first. Oh no. Yeah, I've got. Okay, let's see. Okay, Rob, I think was the first one in there, so we're going to do transitions. Okay, perfect. So this is actually a question that comes from a reader named Mike, and he's working on Route 66. So if you don't know it's just a 12-bar blues, Route 66. Super common. Gets called it like blues jam sessions or jazz jam sessions every once in a while. Singers love it because it's like a blues. Instrumentalists love blues. Everything's all good in a blues. So he says the chords he's working with are like E flat 7 for a bar, A flat 7 2 3 4, E flat 2 3 4, 2 more bars, and then to A flat 2 3 4, 12 bar blues, and then to E flat 2 3 4, and then we've got the 5 chord coming up. Oh, actually no. What is it? Okay, yeah. So then he's got it's actually 2-5 blues rather than a 5-4 blues. So it's got F minor going to B flat 7 going to E flat. So rather than rather than having a 5-4, so like instead of having the 5 chord, so B flat going down to A flat, it's more of a jazz blues kind of thing where it goes to the 2 chord and then to the 5 chord, 5, and then back to the 1 chord. Now, Mike's question is he needs to play like a walking kind of thing, and he needs to figure out how to play in between the chords to connect them really well. And I thought that was a great question. So there's a couple of different ways of thinking about this kind of thing. I do actually have a video all about walking-based formulas, but that's not, I think, what Mike's question is actually about. So it seems like, when he's on 1 chord, it's fine. He can like plug in some, different kind of formulas. So if he's on that E flat 7 chord, for example, he can play like any of the, 1 3 5 3 1 3 5 3, or 1 2 3 5 1 2 3 5. It's not a problem when he's on that specific chord, but when he goes to the new chord, rather than just kind of like plugging in 1 2 3 5 1 2 3 5 1 2 3 5 1 2 3 5 of every chord, he wants to connect the chords, so you're almost setting up the next chord in effect, which can sound really good. It's a really good way of adding some extra dynamics and another dimension to your bass line. So there's a couple of ways of doing it. Now, E flat, E flat, if we're in an E flat blues and we're on the E flat 7 chord, the notes that we could use that would be quote unquote diatonic, or within the notes of that chord, would be from the E flat mixolydian scale. So E flat F G, A flat B flat C, D flat E flat. So that's if we're using notes from within the key and we're going from this E flat chord, for example, to the A flat chord, which is from the 1 chord going to the 4 chord, perfect. We can use notes from that specific place, and it's going to sound really, really good. So what we can do is, okay, so if we're aiming to be on this A flat chord, we're going from the E flat chord to the A flat chord. The A flat chord becomes our target. So we're going to work backwards from there and make sure that we can play things that lead up to this really well. So obviously, if we're playing like a walking bass line, it's going to be like a 4 notes to the bar kind of thing. So, and the A flat right here is going to, like this, I guess, this A flat or this A flat, however you want to think about it, it's going to land on beat 1. So what we can do is really simply just work backwards from there. So let's say we want to end up on this A flat on beat 1. We can say, okay, well, let's either walk up or down. Arnie, I know you want to be involved. You know, hop down, puppy. Arnie, hop down. Good boy. Sit. Good boy. Actually, okay, he's smelling. I've got some treats up here for him. Arnie, what's this? Take that. Good boy. Okay. Sorry, getting distracted. So like I'm saying, we're aiming for this A flat on beat 1. So we can literally work backwards from there. So this is our beat 1. So if we wanted to walk up from the E flat to the A flat, we can be like, okay, so that's beat 1 of the target bar. So beat 4 is going to be one note below that. And what notes do we use for that? We use the notes of that E flat 7 chord, because that's the chord that we're on before we get to the A flat chord. So what's the note that's directly below the A flat that's within the kind of E flat mixed Lydian scale that we were talking about before? It's this G right here. So this is going to be on beat 4 of the previous bar. If we use the notes, keep going, you know, using the notes from E flat mixed Lydian underneath that, we're going to have an F there on beat 3 and then E flat on beat 2. Now, if you're in the you know, if you're playing a walking line, which I think is what Mike is getting at here, that means we have to probably play the roots on beat 1 most of the time. There's plenty of times where you can break that rule, but having the root on beat 1 is going to sound really, really good. So if we've already got, you know, if that's on beat 1 of the next bar and that's on beat 4, 3, and 2, that means we're going to play E flat on beat 1 and beat 2 before we go up to the A flat. So that's going to sound like this. So if we're using one of the, you know, formulas, like let's use 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, and on this last bar before we get to the A flat, we're going to have that thing we just figured out. So we're going to have beat 1 is E flat, beat 2 is also E flat, and then walk up F, G, A flat. Yeah, so in time it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, Here we go, here it is. Yeah, so we've really transitioned well from this particular chord going to that particular chord. By the way, you can do this with just about any, you know, chord you're on versus the chord you're going to. So you could take any chord progression basically and apply this kind of idea. So figure out what your target is, work backwards from there. Now this, at the very start, it's going to be a very intellectual exercise because, you know, no one thinks like backwards when they're playing music in a forward manner. Like you don't play music back. Well, some people do play music backwards. I shouldn't be so general. But most of the time we're playing music, you know, we start at the start and end at the end. We're going forward through the music. So it's a very strange exercise to work backwards through it. But if you do this kind of thing and do it as an exercise at the start, kind of force yourself to do things in that way, then you can very easily, Arnie's come back, you can very easily, you know, integrate that into your kind of vocabulary and your language over time, which is exactly, you know, what all the great bass players have ever done. They've learnt all this kind of language and figured all this stuff out. Arnie, hop down. I know. He's being very needy today. But so let's do one more time. So we've got, you know, just say 4 bars of E flat before we get to the A flat. Let's also do the same thing on the second bar of the A flat. So we do have 2 bars of the A flat. And so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4 before we go back to the E flat right there. So let's do the same thing going back to the E flat. So we're on this E flat right here. So let's make this beat 1. Now we're on this A flat 7 chord right here. So we'll be using the A flat Mixolydian kind of sound. If we're using like that kind of sound over that chord. So let's work backwards. So if this is our target note, this E flat right here. So this will be beat 1. So this, we're going to use notes of A flat Mixolydian, which is those notes. So if this is beat 1, 4, 3, 2, and the A flat is probably going to be on beat 1. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then get back to the E flat there. Yeah, and this is just going up. You know, I'm sure you've played that kind of shape before. That's like the start of every major scale you've ever played in your entire life, which is perfect, which means it's very familiar. It's very easy to kind of integrate that into our playing super quickly. So we have, 1, 3, 5, 3, 2, 2, 3, and here we go. Da, 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 3, 5, 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah, so da 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 da. Very, very I don't want to say basic because it's not necessarily you have to put some thought into this, but it's very, very obvious in its like, da 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 da. You're definitely going to go there. It really, really lines up those chords really, really nicely. So that's using just diatonic notes within, the chord of the moment. So, the chord of the moment being E flat when you're on the E flat, the chord of the moment being A flat when you're on the A flat. That's how it works in terms of using notes within the key. But you can also use notes from outside of the key as well, which can be really, really fun. And you can get some really interesting sounds. And one way to do this is, before every target chord. So for example, if we're staying on the 1 chord going to the 4 chord, the 4 chord becomes a target chord again. All we can do is go a minor third down from the 4 chord, and that's just going down 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 frets right there. You just start there and go up chromatically. Yeah, so and that's only like 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So you start the minor third down thing on beat 2. So on beat 1, it's pretty much always going to be the root, right? So this is going to sound like this. So you're going to have 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. There it is. 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, and then 1, and then minor third, da 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 ba ba ba. So you're using a bit of chromaticism, so notes from outside the key that's going to line up those chords really well. And chromatic notes work really, really well for setting things up. Most of the time, the purpose of using chromatic notes isn't necessarily to get the chromaticism, it's to, force something into a rhythmic line, so to speak. So the whole point of this particular one is da 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 ba, da. It's to get that one right there. Da, 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 ba, which is exactly what you're aiming for. Da, 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 ba. So you can do that with all the notes and all the chords within the blues as well. So let's try that. Let's every time there's a new chord, let's go a minor third, below it and then lead up into it. That's going to sound like this. So anytime there's more than one bar of a chord, I'll just play the 1, 3, 5 kind of thing. But when we're going to another chord, we'll go a minor third below that, and it's going to sound like this: a 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, and here we go. Here's the first one. 1, 3, 5, 3. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. Now again, this is kind of working backwards. You're starting at the target and figuring out what's before that, rather than, okay, I'm at this point and I need to get to wherever I'm going. So that's a bit of a different way of thinking about things, but it can be very, very useful for adding some extra flavor, some extra spice, if you want to call it that, whatever you want to call it, and into your own playing and making things feel slightly different. It'll take you outside of, especially if you use the chromatic ones, it'll take you outside of the things you probably normally do, which can be really cool. Now, I'm guessing we may have, okay, cool. Just looking at the, now Jim says, why one note below the target note? Someone's saying the pup's looking a little dodgy. No, he's not. He's adorable. I'll have no bad words said about Arnie. Now, Jim's asking why one note below the target note. You can do this from above as well. Let's try that. So instead of approaching from below, let's approach from above. So rather than, going da 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 da, or like da 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 da, which is, very kind of leading into something, we can fall into something as well. So you can do the exact same kind of idea. So for example, if you're, actually I'll get rid of this so you can see me properly. If you're on the E flat chord again, going to the A flat chord, let's go down. So let's say, okay, so this is our note that we're aiming for in terms of our target note, so this A flat again. So let's treat that as beat 1, and this can be beat 4 of the next bar. Oh, sorry, not the next bar, the previous bar. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and that actually works out really well. So we're working backwards from our target note and using the notes from the E flat Mixolydian scale. So that's going to sound like this: 1, 3, 5, 1. here we go. That also works really well. You can do, everything basically. You can use all the chords and use this idea on basically all of them. It's going to sound really good. So yeah, there's tons of stuff you can do with all that kind of... Oh no, yeah, Ruth's probably right. Puppy probably didn't hear that. Here, I can't say that word out loud, or he's definitely going to be on me. Cool. All right, so let's have a look. Now, does that make any sense? Or at least a little bit of sense. If you have any questions about that, please let me know in the live chat, because I will try and explain this stuff as good as I possibly can. As good as, oh, that's terrible English. As well as I possibly can. Because yeah, this stuff can be a little bit tricky, especially starting off with first thing on, well, for me this is my Saturday morning, so first thing on a Saturday morning. But I know it's like 1 a.m. for some people. Gail says tanks. No worries. Okay, cool. So, it doesn't look like any questions are coming through about that particular one just yet. Okay, cool. Craig says he's on it. Awesome. Now, let's have a look at number 2. Okay, so again, first person to get in will have the call. So, are we doing next? Are we doing the fills, or are we doing? Fills or the buzzing question? Fills or buzzing? First one in the live chat wins a gold star, and we'll do that one next. That'll be fun. But in the meantime, okay, so Vicky says buzz. Okay, perfect. We can do that. Nice. So we'll do the next one. But before we get to that, I do have one quick story to tell. I've actually got this. I was on a gig the other day, and I've got this friend who's a sound technician, a German friend who's a sound technician, and I've got a check 1 2, check 1 2. I've got a check 1 2. Like a Czech friend who's also a sound tech. Yeah, I need like a little soundboard where I can play terrible dad joke stuff. But that's my second dad joke. That's number 2. Number 2 of a ripper. That's a gigging joke. I'm into it. Now Bob says, where do intervals fit in? Let me just circle back to that. Remind me when we come back to that, because I'll try and answer any questions that we have about this kind of stuff. Yes, this is the exact kind of reaction I'm wanting with these dad jokes. Just horrible, horrible groans. I don't yet have children, but when I do, they're gonna absolutely love these dad jokes, and then they're gonna absolutely hate them, which I'm very much looking forward to both of those phases. All right, so. The next question was, Vicky said about buzzing. So we actually had a couple of different questions from a couple of different people. From Herminator, whose real name I think is Herb, but Herminator just sounds real cool. And then also Ronnie. They asked very, very similar questions. Now, they're both relative novices. And they asked very similar questions about how to minimize, first of all, string noise and buzzing on their bass. So, you're playing along, blah, 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 doing something, and you get these kind of notes, where there's that kind of buzzing stuff. How to get rid of that, basically. And they both asked, would it be easier to play flat wounds, or would it be easier to, use flat wound strings to get rid of some of that kind of stuff? Now, my answer to this is twofold. There's a couple of things going on here. First of all, there's a difference between string noise, which is like this kind of stuff, when you're getting all that kind of, you're buzzing, not buzzing around, but you're getting this kind of, squeakiness when you're moving your hand around the bass. And there's also that actual buzzing where you're playing and you're getting that kind of thing, which is a very, very different thing. And people are going to have very different opinions about. There's even Vicky says I hate flat wounds. I don't use flat wounds either. I just like the feeling and the sound of round wounds. Some people swear by flat wounds, so it's not necessarily someone's right or someone's wrong. It's just different strokes for different people, I think is the phrase, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. A bird in the hand spoils the broth. I'm pretty sure that's how that goes. So there's a couple of things going on here. Now the squeakiness going from just kind of moving around your bass. Having flat wounds will actually take that down a whole bunch. It's not going to completely eliminate it, but it's going to remove it a lot. The counterpoint to that, and something that I would probably say, is that it doesn't necessarily matter this kind of stuff in the context of a song. Like if you're playing like, you know, with other people, even one other person, that whole kind of squeaky thing, it's going to be very obvious to you because you're hearing it probably a lot clearer than most people. But most people aren't, you know, listening to that when they hear the bass. They're listening for that kind of stuff. And if there's a bit of that kind of stuff, then that's totally fine. It doesn't matter as much. You know, I wouldn't switch strings just based on that because you're probably the only one who cares about it, honestly. Because I used to do the same thing. I used to like freak out, like I'd be doing my technique exercises or drills or just playing by myself or whatever, and be like, oh, there's so much squeaky stuff. And literally no one has ever said to me, like on a gig or rehearsal or anywhere, hey man, can you like stop that squeaking sound? Like no one's ever said that to me because no one really hears it when you're, you know, playing with other people. So it's totally fine. Flat wounds, I keep messing them up. Flat wounds are going to minimize that, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. The bigger issue is that buzzing, that kind of stuff you're getting on there. Now, part of that could be a setup issue. Some people have already in the comments mentioned truss rod. Yeah, it could be that the bass is you know, due for a setup. The action might be overly high, which can make it a lot, you know, more common to have that kind of buzzing. But also, it could be a technique issue. Now, what I always tell all my students when they're doing this stuff is you want to use as little effort basically in both hands, but especially the left hand as possible. You want to, you know, economize all the energy you use. And one of the big parts of that is where within the fret you're playing your notes. So if I'm using my index finger here, I've got all this kind of real estate. If I'm playing on that 6th fret, on that 6th fret right there, I can play the 6th fret back here. I can play the 6th fret in the middle. I can play it up here. I can play it like almost on top of the fret, but that starts to affect the sound. But there's all this real estate you could potentially use. But the quote-unquote best place to play and the one that's going to minimize the buzzing is as close to the target fret as possible. Hey puppy, what have you got in your mouth? He's been out in the garden. We just moved house and he's got like a yard to run around in, so he's very happy. But as close to the fret as possible right there. So, and you actually saw it when I was like demonstrating back here. Back here, you need so much more extra pressure to get a solid note. Like for example, if I take it to as close as possible to the fret without kind of being on top of it, so that's like being just a slight tiny bit behind it, and use as little pressure as possible, I can get a perfectly good note out of there. But take that same exact amount of pressure, and if you've got a bass in your hands at the moment right now, try this with me because you'll be astounded at the difference just like a couple of millimeters can make. So if you're right here and use the exact same amount of pressure, don't use extra pressure as you go back, but go back just a couple of millimeters, and you'll start to see that kind of thing happen, where you do get that buzzing. And the further you go back towards the, you know, the back side of the fret, the worse it's going to get. So getting as close to the fret as possible is going to make a huge difference. And this is why playing positionally can be really helpful. So you might have noticed when I was, for example, playing that Mixolydian stuff before. It's not that I was, you know, close to the fret on one of the notes. I was close to the fret on all of them. So like this one, like my pinky's like right up against that fret, not quite on top of it. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, so let me take the same exact kind of thing, that same exact scale. I'll try and replicate the same exact pressure I'm using here, but take it to the back of the fret. Yeah. I've built up this habit of being as close to the fret as possible. It's actually quite hard for me to be like on the back end of the fret. I keep wanting to like shift forward. Let me try that again. This is interesting practice for me. You'll also notice it's probably going to be a little bit worse on the thicker, fatter strings rather than the thinner ones. And if you have a bass on you at the moment, if you have one in your hands, try this. You'll be like amazed at how, first of all, how little pressure you probably need when you get close to the fret, and just how bad it sounds when you go, you know, back towards the fret. Now, if you are doing that and it's still you're getting some buzz, then it probably is going to be some kind of setup issue. So, for example, you might need to adjust your truss rod or the action on your bass somehow. Whether you do that yourself or you get someone else to do that as well. Get to do that for you is totally up to you. I'm like a little bit paranoid about breaking things. I probably wouldn't break things if I did my own setups on my own instruments, but I would rather just rather than me like experimenting on my own instruments, I'd rather have someone who's been doing it like for years and knows exactly what they're doing. I'd rather they take care of it rather than me like experimenting. I don't really have any basses that I like don't play. I'm not one of these dudes that like, some people just have like, I've got friends like this who just have like tons of instruments, and they go through like phases where they love one instrument and then other ones, and they just have like a lot. I don't really do that so much. I just like have instruments that I'm going to play a lot. Like I play this one on basically all my gigs now, and I do have like a 5 and a 6 that I also play every once in a while. The 6 I play kind of rarely now because I don't really play many gigs that require a 6 string, but even then I wouldn't want to like tinker with it just because I was always bad at arts and crafts, so everything I made was always lopsided. So I think I would have a bit of an issue if I was like tinkering on my own instruments. So I'd rather give it to someone for a proper setup. This is another good point from Vicky. Huge humidity swings where she lives. I definitely have. Yeah, man. I also like this. Hold on, where is it? Over here on the screen. Yeah, this upright. I actually bought this when I was living in Kentucky, and it was set up really well. It was like, because Kentucky can be quite dry, especially like depending on what time of the year it is. So I had it like all nicely set up. It's got an adjustable bridge, and it was like a couple of mils up, and it felt really good. I got it shipped back to Australia where I live now, and I actually got it shipped back to a place called Mackay, which is like in the tropics. Super humid. Like you get out of the plane, and it just like hits you like poof, like just horrible humidity, and the bass, it like swelled up, and I had my like adjustable bridge all the way down, and the action was still too high. So yeah, that definitely has a huge effect on everything. I think he says 6 strings has my brain. Yeah, totally. But this is, Craig says, it's my instrument. I'll experiment with it all I want. Absolutely, go for it. That's just not what I want to do. I'd rather have someone do it for me because I'm also like just not interested in doing that stuff as well. Like some people are super into like tinkering. I'm not really. That's just how it is for me, which is fine. Like I would rather just give it to someone else, and that's just how I am. But technique first. Technique should always be, not always, but most of the time, it's going to be the first port of call for anything like that. If you can fix it with technique, then that's preferable than changing your bass or changing your strings or changing anything like that. For example, even with like tone, if you want to get like a different tone, I always, if I'm on stage and something's not right about my tone, I try and fix it with the way I'm playing versus going to the instrument itself and changing something on the settings there or even the amp. That's like my kind of hierarchy of tone. I try and fix it with technique first because you've got a ton of control over how your bass sounds using technique. Even just like where, and this is kind of tangential to the question, but even just like the difference between playing here versus playing here versus playing here is very different, right? You're getting like kind of middle of the road sound here, down here you're getting a more bitey sound, and then more like kind of mellow sound like the closer you go that way. So I would always use technique to kind of try and fix the sound first, and then mess with the the dials on your bass, and then if something's still wrong, go to the amp, because it's just easiest to do things with technique first of all, and then your bass and then your amp. But it's also probably going to be more effective, and it's going to make you a better player as well. If you're always kind of tinkering with gear and just keeping your technique the same, you're not kind of squeezing as much juice or as much stuff out of your own playing as you possibly could have, which is, I'm always about that. Okay, Ruth says she tried to fix her Carl U bass and it crackles. Not good at tinkering either. Yeah. So that's I think Ruth is like, this kind of story is what I would not be worried about, but I'm sure this would happen if I would like try and like tinker with anything. I would just end up not doing a great job because I'm not that well-minded. Hopefully that answers Ronnie's and Herminator's questions. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense at least. Now, okay, here's one. 2 giant windmills were out, having a conversation in a wind farm. One of them says, "Hey, what kind of music do you like?" And he replies, "Well, I'm a huge metal fan." Thank you. I'm here until for another, I don't know, however many minutes. That's joke number 3, dad joke number 3. Yes, perfect. Now, let's go. We've talked about, what do we talk about? Transitions, talked about the buzzing. We've got one last thing to talk about, and that is creating fills. Now, we had a bunch of questions actually asking about fills. We had one from, where is it in my document? Hold on one second. One from Charles, we had one from Hank, and we had a couple of questions about pentatonic scales as well from a couple other questions, like where to use them and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to cover a couple of questions in one. So let me just actually read out Charles's question. It's a really well thought out question. He says, let's say a song has 3 notes, D, G, and A, and we're in the key of D, and I want to throw in some fills. What's some easy ways to play some filler notes without kind of mapping it out in advance on sheet music on paper and still play in the same key? That was a great question. And Hank had a similar question. He says, I had problems coming up with short fill-ins that are usually played up higher on the D and G strings, just a couple of beats. So he's just talking about how to play fills. He wants to be able to do it kind of on the fly and, come up with something that, what he says, that is good and creative and gets the job done okay. And he'd like to be able to do it on the fly without even thinking about it. So similar kind of questions, and I would love to answer both of them. 2 birds with 1 stone. Bird in the hand is worth 2 in the broth. Something like that. I'm pretty sure that's how the saying goes. I'm joking, by the way. I know that's not how it goes. Just in case, I can be a bit too dry sometimes. But let's answer this question. So, in short, to answer Charles's question, the easiest way to play, fill in notes without kind of mapping things out in advance is to get really familiar with your pentatonic scale. Now, in case you don't know the pentatonic scale, there's a major version and there's like a minor version. So the major version sounds like this. If let's use E, because E is nice and easy, just to do an exercise that I'm probably going to get you to do. So you're going to have something like, so in the key of E, it's E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, da, 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 da. And if you're going, using all the notes in that position, you use all those. Yeah? If you know, what's the song? Isn't She Lovely? It has that. It's just pentatonic all the way. And the pentatonics are great because they basically eliminate the quote-unquote bad sounding notes. It takes away the 4th and the 7th, if you're thinking about it in terms of the major key. And the 4th and the 7th are usually the ones that, if you hang around on too long, they're going to sound not that great, because they're something called avoid tones, which is something, I don't love that phrase because it implies that they need to be avoided. They don't need to be avoided, but that's a different question for another time. But that's our pentatonic. That's our major pentatonic. That's getting too low for me. So, if we were to take, something in the key of E major, and we'll do it in a couple of different ways. We can have like a single chord thing, we can have like a chord progression. And it's going to work either way. If you're in the key of E major, whether that's playing over just like an E major or an E dominant vamp, or you're actually playing through a chord progression, you can use the E major pentatonic scale. It's going to work basically all the time. And because of the way it's kind of set up and the way it's structured, it's very easy to kind of make things. You can literally just go up and down, and it can sound relatively musical because you're not going up and down like a whole scale. It's like a fragment of a scale. Now, going just up and down scales isn't something I normally just recommend because it can sound kind of unmusical. But if you're new to this, doing this as an exercise is a great way to get started, and then you can, add more musicality to it as you go forward. So let's do this kind of thing. So let's have that's our groove. So what we want to do is play a little fill, like either 2 or 4 beats long, just using the major pentatonic scale. And you can literally just go up and down. So if you're going, those are our notes of the pentatonic scale. So we could literally just go up and down. So if we have this groove, here we go. Now, the tricky thing, not tricky, but the thing you have to really kind of pay attention to is not necessarily what's happening during the fill, because that's kind of secondary to what happens afterwards and you resolve the phrase, right? You want, when you're playing fills, the most important part isn't the fill itself, it's how you get out of the fill. And it's, you know, beat one of the following bar, right? So if you're having bum, 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 bum. Let's try one where we botch the fill. Bum, 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 bum. You know, it just kind of destroys things, and like it'll interrupt the groove, it'll interrupt the flow of the song. Definitely something you want to avoid, right? Because, you know, if you're playing bass, you want to have that continuous continuum of groove. And if you're having fills and they, you know, mess up the groove, then that's something you want to avoid as much as you possibly can, right? You want to avoid that. So the trick is not necessarily paying less attention to you know, the actual fill, but you want to devote more of your attention to getting out of the fill in, you know, a satisfying way. So even if you completely botch the fill, as long as you kind of come out of it solid, then you can get away with murder. Like I've done this before, where I'll like have an idea for a fill, and the idea is clear for the first 3/4 of it, and the last quarter is just like kind of fudge. But if you get out of it well, then it's totally fine. You know when you don't get out of it well, because you'll get these looks from the drummer. They'll look over here, and if they're cool, they'll be like, "Ah, you messed up," or they'll be like, "Ugh." They'll give you the frosty glare of doom. You want to avoid that one if you can. So yeah, just paying more attention to the end of the fill rather than the content of it. Not to say you shouldn't think about the content. You probably should, but you want to, you know, as much as you can, make sure that things end well. The other thing you can do to kind of give your fill some impact is to put a little bit of space in between the last note of the fill and beat one of the next bar, right? If that makes sense. So just having that little gap can make things feel nice and solid when you come back in with the groove. So that'd sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, bum, 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 bum. Yeah, hear that? There's tiny little bit of a gap. It's like half a beat or a beat or something, but it's going to make things feel super fat if there's that gap, because that gap is going to create a tiny bit of tension, and then it's resolved when you come in with the groove. And hopefully, if you place it well with the drummer, it's going to, you know, be right in time with a big crash and a big kick in the drum. So this is something you see in like all the old school like P-Funk recordings. Like they're all about the one. So they'll have these tiny gaps in between, you know, the end of a phrase and the start of the next one. So then things come in. It's like, it just feels super big. It's super cool, which is very fun. But let's actually, what you can do, I do have a video called, I can't remember exactly what I called it, but it's about the pentatonic scale and how you can memorize all the different kind of positions of it. And I would definitely recommend, if fills is something that you're into, definitely check out that video, map out the kind of scales in advance, and then do this kind of exercise where you take a rhythmic idea and take it through all the different shapes. So we've been using this kind of idea. Something like that. So that's the rhythmic idea. So we're, you know, having a rhythm and mapping notes on top of that rather than having notes and then trying to squeeze and shoehorn rhythms in. It's a great way of thinking about things if you're not sure, you know, what to play. Think rhythmically first and then add notes on top of that. So something like that. That's our rhythm. So we can just take that idea and take it through all the different positions of the pentatonic scale, and it's going to sound, you know, good. 1, 2, 3, bum, bum. And halfway. So that's using this kind of position, the one we've been kind of in right there. Let's move up to this one. know your pentatonic scale, you know that this is your regular old minor pentatonic, just like that. So you can, and by the way, C sharp minor pentatonic is the same notes as E major pentatonic. So you can use the exact same notes, and let's just apply that rhythm to it. 2, 3, Here we go. That wasn't quite as clean as it could have been. Let me go again. I think I changed the rhythm there, but it still worked all right, yeah? Whatever it happened to be. That's, you know, something you can do very, very, well, not very, very easily, but relatively easily once you know all the 5 positions of the pentatonic scale. Actually, let's keep going. Let's do this one, which is just your regular old, you know, from the E string, the E major pentatonic scale. So 1, 2, yeah? I don't mind that. That's kind of cool. So yeah, that's just your literally major pentatonic scale right there. It's going to sound really good. If you move up to the next one, we can use this one as well. Yeah, so we go bum, 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 bum. That was a bit messy. Let me go again. Let me redeem myself. Bum, 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 bum. That was a bit better. Yeah, so it's the same exact kind of idea, just worked through those different shapes of the major pentatonic scale. You can do the exact same thing with the minor pentatonic scale as well. So if rather than thinking about it like a, pardon me, like a major kind of chord, how about like a minor kind of chord? All that kind of stuff. So you can use your E minor pentatonic scale, which is this one right here. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. So let's use same exact groove, but just in a minor kind of version. Actually, I think that might have been the same rhythmic idea. I was trying to get it as close as possible. I might have actually have done it. But yeah. Yeah, so you can do the exact same thing with major or minor, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter necessarily. I mean, it does matter. You want to play, you know, appropriate notes. But what's probably more important is the rhythmic idea that underlines it. Because there's plenty of places that you can play, you know, dodgy notes and make it still feel good. As long as it feels good, it's fine. Like, I'm not sure how many of you have checked out, there's a video I did about Joe Dart, where I've just like transcribed a bunch of Joe Dart stuff. There's one lick in there, I think I might have put it in the original draft of the video, but I think I might have taken it out. But there's one of these licks that he just plays the straight up wrong pentatonic scale for the chord, but he resolves it really well, and it sounds great. Like you wouldn't ever know that it was, you know, quote unquote wrong, because it's not wrong. It's just like a different kind of tension. It's really, you know, once you, the more you kind of like get down the rabbit hole of music, you realize that there aren't necessarily wrong notes. It's just notes that, you know, require a different kind of treatment, a different way to resolve the tension, that, you know, do all that kind of stuff. Pick bass guitar. Good to see you here, man. Did I just get a fresh pair of strings? No, these strings are old. I need to actually change them. But I'm glad they sound good to you. That's good. George says understanding key signature scales and rhythm is the key. In order, I would say that rhythm is probably the most important thing out of those three. Key signatures are probably, they're important. Knowing necessarily like how many sharps and flats and all that kind of stuff. If you want to really get into this stuff, yes, that becomes important. Absolutely. If you just want to like play something rather than like the same bass line you get from the recording, it's not necessary to be like, oh, well, I know that the key of B major has this many sharps, and like that's not as important. The rhythm is the important thing. Like if you're gonna probably get to music quicker by learning the shapes and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of moving it around rather than going to the circle of fifths and analyzing all that stuff. Like I said, if you're getting serious about that stuff, absolutely, you definitely need to know all that stuff. But if you're like more casual and you don't really want to or don't have the time, then it's not absolutely 100% necessary. Controversial, maybe, I don't know. There'll definitely be people who disagree, and that's okay. That's totally fine. Everyone thinks about music in their own specific way. And the thing about music is it doesn't really matter how you're thinking about it. The only thing that matters is the sound that comes out of your instrument, right? And if it's a good sound and you like it, then that's what matters to me, at least. John is like a mad. It's even in his profile picture. He's mad Spectre fan. Yeah, perfect. Okay, Ruth says I dance the songs with my headphones to get the rhythm. Yeah, this is actually a really good point. I did a masterclass with a saxophone player named Antonio Hart. I'm not sure how many. He's like a New York jazz saxophone player, but he's an incredible musician. He's like incredible. I did some masterclasses with him back. It would have been like 2013, and he got everyone to like dance to the music, which is something that I'd never really thought about in that particular way. But then he was telling stories about Cuban musicians and how it's like when you talk about like salsa music, the dance is kind of inseparable from the music itself. So there's what Ruth is saying here. There's actually something to this. I would absolutely agree. Like dancing and like actually moving your body with the music, it can be very, very helpful. Just in terms of as well, if you're playing fills or grooves or anything like that, if you mess up intellectually and you like can't keep track of where beat one is, for example, but you have that kind of body to kind of come back down with you, it's a lot easier to get back on track if you do happen to fall off. So you might have been noticing I'll do these ones. 1, 2, 3, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I'm actually like doing these ones. It's like a little insurance policy to make sure that things, if I do lose track of where I am, but I'm still doing this, I'm like, okay, my body knows where the time is. Then I can my mind can kind of catch up with my body in a way. Bev asks, is this being recorded? Yeah, this will be. This will be at the same link on the YouTube channel. I'll probably leave it up for a couple of days, maybe take it down Monday or Tuesday, but yeah, it'll be there. It'll be there for a while. Big Bass Guitar says, I would want to see me play live. Come to Indiana. Oh yeah, I used to live just south of the Indiana River. Sorry, what's the river? I can't remember. The Ohio River. That's what it is. It's the Ohio River. Yeah, I used to live in Kentucky, like right across the road from New Albany, Indiana. That's crazy. Yeah, Gail's just saying, yeah, got to be able to dance to it. Absolutely. Now, there was a question from, I think, Bob about intervals. Bob, if you're still on the stream, let me know what your question is. I'd love to be able to answer it properly rather than kind of doing all that kind of stuff. Now, we are getting towards the top of the hour, but if you have any questions that I've missed while I've been talking, drop them in the live chat again. I'd love to answer them, as many as possible for you, because I'm here to help you, and I'm here to try and make things as easy as possible for you to start making music and start creating the sounds that you want to come out of your bass and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, also, if you ever once all the borders and stuff open up, come to Queensland. It's great. It's like, this is actually quote unquote winter here, and it's like it's bright and sunny outside. This is like the extent of my winter clothing is just like a light jacket. It's great. It's perfect. It's super hot in the summer, so keep that in mind. But yeah, come to Queensland. But by the way, if anyone ever does find themselves in Queensland, hit me up and send me an email and let me know, and we can go see a gig or something. It'll be fun. Oh yeah, gals, I'm Brisbane, Queensland is where I live. So most of my work is here or up on the Sunshine Coast or down on the Gold Coast, some northern New South Wales stuff, although at the moment it's a little bit dicey. But yeah, that's all the stuff I was doing. Yeah, Bev says, how do you cope with memorizing songs? This is a great question. Now, I actually have a video coming up about this. Because I've been moving, I haven't been able to set up the studio as quickly as I would have liked to, so I haven't been able to shoot. And I was supposed to actually put out a video today that was going to be all about how to memorize songs. And like one thing you can do is to just learn the common chord progressions that so much music is based on. Because most, like, if I was to tally it up, I'd easily know like hundreds of songs I could play like very, very easily, and play them like in multiple key, like any key you want as well. And it's not because I have a great memory, it's because I've just memorized the kind of patterns, and I can just recognize the patterns when they come up. So, if you're playing, what's a good example? Other Side by Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm not necessarily memorizing. Okay, so I'm playing open string on the A string and then 3rd fret on the E string. I'm not really doing that because I would go crazy because it's just too much, not random information, but it's there's no context within that. But if I'm thinking, okay, I'm going from however you want to think about it, I think about it in terms of like 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, 4, 1, 1, 1, 5, 5, 5, 2. So I'm not thinking in terms of the actual notes. I'm thinking in terms of the chord progressions that are accompanying it. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a 6 chord going down to a 4 chord, going to a 1 chord, going to a 5 chord. So it's not that I'm memorizing every single note of every single song. I'm memorizing the bigger picture stuff. And then once you know like that kind of chord progression, dun, 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 you'll start seeing it everywhere. Dun, 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 dun. You're like, Africa. It's the same chord progression. Don't know the words. All that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you look at the bigger picture stuff, look at the common chord progressions, and there's a couple of them. Like that one 6-4-1-5 is a super common one. 1-5-6-4. So 1 chord going to a 5 chord. 6 going to 4, so that's like heaps of songs. That's when I find myself in times of trouble. 6 chord down to the 4 chord there, back to the 1 chord, and then it goes back to the 5. So it's just 1, 5, 6, 4. What's another one? There's just a small town girl living in a 4 chord there. It's in a different key, but the thing is the same. It's just a common chord progression that repeats over and over and over again. So those are really common. 6-4-1-5 and 1-5-6-4. Basically, any combination of 1, 5, 6, and 4 is going to be super, super common. They're just like the most common chords that get used. So any kind of combination of them. So like, what's another one? So starting on the 5 chord is like maybe a little bit less common, but it still happens. So like, 5, 6, 4, 1, baby, I'm hot just like your oven. I need your lovin'. Like what's that song called? Sexual Healing, Marvin Gaye. Like 5 chord going to a 6 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord. So like any kind of combination of 1, 5, 6, and 4, totally up for grabs. So if you can learn how to recognize the sound of those chords in that context, it becomes very, very easy to memorize lots and lots of songs. And that's how I like know how I can get through like lots of songs like that. It's not because I have a good memory, because I don't necessarily have I have reminders in my calendar for everything, like birthdays, what I'm doing like day to day. So definitely very, very useful to get a handle around all that kind of stuff. Gail says I've had 4 gigs cancelled this month already. Things were going well in my state, and then all this other stuff happened. So this weekend's kind of got cancelled for me, and we'll see about next week. Who knows? Paul says, this is great. Thanks for all your videos. Keep making steady progress. Now I can play a lot of the material without looking at the fretboard. That's awesome. That's a huge win. That's super, super cool. That's awesome. Vicky says, been to Thamaginda, a debut on Toowoomba. Yeah, Thamaginda's like way out there. Wow. Bob, okay, this is your question from before. I just wondered if intervals were relevant to that part of the lesson. Possibly. we were talking about going a minor third below your target and then going up chromatically. In that case, yes, definitely, you probably need to know the minor third, like one kind of span of your hand is going to be like, okay, so if I'm aiming for this A flat right here, play that with my pinky, and then everything's going to be right there underneath. That's going to be very, very important for that kind of stuff. Now, Imad asked what your approach to ear training for bass. Sing everything. Sing everything. If you can sing it, then you can figure it out on your bass. And I actually have a whole course about ear training. I think I've got some graduates of that program on the live stream at the moment, so they could probably go in a bit more detail. But at the crux of it, sing what you're trying to play. Use your voice. Like you might have been noticing the whole time I've been doing this stuff, I've been singing everything I'm doing as I've been doing it. And that's like very, very important because it trains your ear to be connected to your mind and your fingers. Because but a common trap people fall into is that they just kind of go into autopilot mode where they see a tab on the screen. So they're like, okay, 7th fret on the A string, and they're like kind of go into autopilot mode, and they don't actually process what they're doing. But getting you to sing what you're playing or sing what you're trying to play is a great way to train your ear, and it's just a great practice to get into as a musician as well. So like, if it's much better to this is going to be this might be controversial as well, but this is just how I feel. I feel like it's much more useful to have a really strong ear versus being able to, read very well. Now, that's not to say that they're mutually exclusive. They're not. You can be a great reader and have a great ear. It's not like you can only be one or the other, but I feel like a lot of music education kind of tries to shoehorn people into being good readers, which is, in my opinion, maybe not the best way of kind of doing things. But there's a whole bunch of systemic things that, I can't do a lot about. But yeah, that's if I could just give one quick thing, because we don't have a lot of time, that's what it would be. Sing everything you're trying to do. Chuck says, do I also play fretless bass? I don't actually have a fretless bass at the moment. I do like playing fretless bass, though. I do play upright bass, which has no frets. I don't know if that kind of counts. Now, Bob has another question. I thought the lead guitarist watched the body language of the bass player to find the rhythm after a solo. That could very well be the case. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case. I do this with drummers as well. If I'm having a hard time trying to find their groove and kind of lock into what they're doing, I'll try and take a step back and just watch their right foot or watch the beater of their kick drum, just to get a feel of where they are on the time. If we're not like, doing if we're not kind of connecting as well as we probably should have been, I'll actually visually like, okay, what's this guy doing with his right foot, or his right hand if it's playing like a jazz thing, because that's where the time is going to be. Pop music, right foot. A lot of jazz music is going to be in the right hand and the left foot. But yeah, that's a good question. Pick Bass Guitar says, I love playing bass, but I'm broken and only fought a Glary jazz bass. Do you think I need a better bass because this is the only bass I've ever played? This is a good question. What matters way more than the actual instrument that you have is the amount of quality time you put into that instrument. So if you had a terrible bass, but you spent 6 hours a day doing really focused practice on that bass, you're going to get better. And then when you eventually do upgrade your instrument, then all that skill is going to transfer to that instrument. The music is in you; it's not in the instrument you're playing. So that would be the primary thing. That being said, if you do feel that your bass is limiting you in some way, like you want to be able to do some things that you physically can't do on your bass, then it you might need to consider upgrading. But that the list of things for that would be relatively small. What matters way more than the actual instrument is quality time on the instrument. Now let's see. Imad has another question. How do I memorize and get better with the chord progressions so when I hear them I can identify one? Same kind of thing, same kind of question. Sing them. So if I was, for example, where's a note? So if I'm playing, that's my 1, I know the 5's there, I know the 6 is here, and the 4 is there, 3, 2, 1. So same kind of thing. Use your voice and your ear to kind of improve all that kind of stuff. So yeah, short answer is the same exact thing. Now, Aiello's on the course. Yeah, Aiello had some great results. He was one of the very first people to go through the level up your ear. Good to see you here, man. That's great. I think you ended up, I think Aiello actually ended up joining his first band after going through the level up your ear stuff, which is super, super cool. Yeah, good to see you on here. That's cool. My Puppy Loves Me. Oh yeah, so My Puppy Loves Me is like Bev's a graduate of the Level Up Your Ear program as well. That's like one of the things from there. Jim says, do you focus on the singer's voice when trying to figure out the melody of a song? Yeah, if I'm trying to figure out the melody to play it on bass, obviously always looking at the singer. So if you're trying to figure it out by ear, so like what's some song we talked about? Isn't She Lovely? Da, 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 da. I don't know what key it's in. Da, what's that note? Da, it's a G. Da, 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 da. So I ended up singing that in. Da, 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 da. Ended up singing the key of E flat. But you're focusing on the singer to kind of give. If that's what you're trying to learn, if you're trying to learn the melody, then absolutely listening to the singer is 100%, 100%, essential. Joshua Cunningham is on. Yes, the singing is huge. It can help you play much more melodically. Yeah, Joshua is actually he's one of my students that I've been working with in something actually that's the big project I've been working on the last couple of months that I'm mentioning in my email. It's actually like it started off as like this very, very big project, and I've had to kind of pare it down a little bit because it was just so much information. But it's the thing I'm working on at the moment is a program to help you create bass lines on the fly. So you can rock up at a jam session. Someone says, "Oh, hey, let's jam," and you can just be like, "Okay, done." And you can play something that's cool, that's interesting, that isn't just the same old kind of like 1-3-5 kind of thing. You've been that you can kind of fall into the trap of. So yeah, Joshua has gone through that. Joshua's done some like really, really cool things as a result of all that stuff. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I've been working on at the moment. But yeah, awesome. Now, okay. I've got heaps of graduates of the programs on the call today. This is awesome. Hyla says band members work on nods and cues a lot. Definitely. Now we've got so many questions coming through. We have already gone over. Yeah, we've got heaps of level up your ear people on here. That's awesome. That's super, super cool. Okay, one last quick question. What are those numbers you're referring to? The numbers I'm referring to are the scale degrees within the key. So, for example, if what did we say? E flat. Duh. So if we're in the key of E flat, then E flat is going to be 1, F is 2, G is 3, A flat is 4, B flat is 5, C is 6, D is 7, and E flat is 8 or 1 again. And this comes back to something called the Nashville number system. And it's, I actually have a video on that as well. I think the title is the system I use to learn songs really quickly or something like that. But yeah, it's all about, thinking about songs in terms of rather than absolute chords. So like instead of thinking E flat, B flat, C minor, A flat, you think 1, 5, 6, 4, and that's in the key of E flat, E flat, B flat, C, A flat, but you can transpose that to any key because the numbers don't change between keys, so you can change it to C, and 1, 1, 5, 6, 4, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you aren't over the Nashville number system yet, definitely check out that video, and it's going to be helpful. George asks, graduate from what course? I think mostly there's people from Level Up Your Ear in here today. But yeah, Rob's also a graduate of Level Up Your Groove as well. But yeah, so there's all that kind of stuff. And yeah, Jeff Chom's another Level Up Your Ear graduate. Yeah, this is awesome. AJ asks where to find a good ear training program. I disagree with this. I don't think you have to learn guitar or piano to play by ear. Like if you want to learn to play by ear, you can do it on your own instrument. It's not like I said before, the music isn't in the instrument. The music is in you, and you just bring it out through whatever instrument you happen to be playing. This is the Nashville number system video. If you want to get a little bit deeper into that stuff for that question. But let's call it a day for right now. Thank you so much for staying with me. I really appreciate all the good questions, all the good comments. This was super, super fun. I haven't done one of the live streams in a while, so it's good to get on and see all your virtual smiling faces. Not actual smiling faces, just there's some nice smiling faces in some profile pictures I've been seeing. It's all good. So let's call it a day there. I really do appreciate it once again. I will talk to you all very, very soon, and I'll try and see if I can answer. I had way more questions come through, and I'll try and answer some of them via email right now. But thank you again for hanging out. Really do appreciate it, and I'll see you really soon. Have a good one.